What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today, and it's time for another edition of the Power 30. We really do not have much substantial movement, just a couple little things here and there that we're going to talk about in this rankings, as well as some recalibration in a couple of instances, and we'll talk about it when we get there. Hey, my name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I'm a sports media graduate with a massive passion for everything to do with the sports world, but that especially includes the world of college football. And if you want to hear everything I have to say for the remainder of the season, especially as we get into the college football playoffs, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. And if you want to follow me on a more personal note, browse all over the social medias at TailgateNate29, Twitter, Instagram. Follow along in my journey to reach as high as I can in the professional world of sports media. With all that said and done and out of the way, you guys know we don't waste any time. Let's dive right on into things, and let's start by talking about really three teams that do not move from last week. So still got James Madison, still got North Texas, still got Illinois right here in the rankings. I mean, they just keep winning. I know Illinois, North Texas, I believe, were on some bye weeks. But James Madison, North Texas, those are two teams that, much like last week, I still really, really like in the group of five race. When you talk about the Illinois Fighting Illini, that game, that loss to Washington now does get hurt a little bit because Washington did lose to Wisconsin. But besides that, again, that's a tough road game environment, and their losses are to the top two teams in the country in Ohio State and Indiana. And I've said it all along on why Illinois is still one of my Power 30 teams. And again, that's still why they remain right here at number 28. Number 27 is Tulane, the Green Wave. How about beating the Memphis Tigers, keeping themselves in great position to try to get into this American Athletic Championship game? And I got to tell you, folks, you look at Tulane, you look at North Texas, you still got to include Memphis. You also take a look at Navy, still sitting right there. Okay, East Carolina is still in this race, right? There is a ton of parity and chaos that can still happen in the American Athletic Conference, and that's exactly why you got to watch out for teams like James Madison. With San Diego State losing to Hawaii last week, it kind of maybe knocks the Mountain West out. So if the American Athletic is going to beat itself up and have this round-robin chaos thing happen, then James Madison is sitting right there in prime position just in prime real estate to try to get into the college football playoff. But good on Tulane for beating Memphis there. Great win for them. And it vaults Tulane back into my Power 30, where they've been in and out this year. The Iowa Hawkeyes are going to stay at number 26. You lose at home to a pretty good team in Oregon. In fact, one could say a really good team in Oregon. On a last-second field goal, it's not really going to move the needle much for me on what this Iowa team is doing. But again, another big opportunity for them to elevate their ranking when they go on the road and take on the USC Trojans this week. That is a big one. And the committee, the College Football Playoff Ranking Committee, is also utilizing my viewpoint, right? They only dropped one spot after that loss to Oregon last week. Iowa is still, again, playing Iowa football. Is starting to see some other pieces here and there come into their own, but it's mainly just been, again, the brand of football in Iowa that we all know and love. Mizzou is at number 25. I'm keeping them in my top 25. I mean, you end up losing that game there to a Texas A&M team. I mean, let's be honest, is I think starting to play some really good ball. That defensive front is getting to round into form very, very nicely. But you did find yourself competing with Texas A&M throughout points there. However, you really are seeing the impact that Bo Pribula had on this offense. Matt Zollers was just not good. He was 7 of 22, only 77 yards. He was not that great. It was this rushing attack that led this Mizzou offense. And if they had that quarterback play of Bo Pribula, who knows? I mean, they at very least make that game competitive. And their defense had to take it a step up a notch in there as well. But still, overall, been impressed with Mizzou. Again, I'm not going to retroactively dock them too much. Yes, their quarterback is out in Bo Pribula. Yes, they did lose that game to Texas A&M, and a lot of people can. And yes, the quarterback play was abysmal. A lot of people are going to look at that Mizzou team and start to plunder them down these rankings, right? I'm not ready to do that quite yet with this Mizzou team. I've still overall been impressed by what they've done this year, and it'll sit them at number 25 for me. three ACC teams all in a row right there. You got Louisville, you got Virginia, and you have Pitt. Now, you saw Louisville go down last week to Cal. It's a talented Cal team, and you've seen Jeff Brom squads do that before, but Virginia, the narrative walking into that game was, okay, Virginia, here's your time. Let's see how you play when the lights are the brightest. And they couldn't handle it. They could not handle the lights. So taking a look at this Virginia team and what's in front of them moving forward now, you still got a great opportunity to get into the ACC championship game, but you're not in as prime a position as you were. They were the team controlling their own destiny in the ACC, and I think they still do. I'm pretty positive that they still do, and that win over Louisville helps them out a ton. But again, you don't have to play Pitt this year, right? The schedule the rest of the way is still pretty favorable. It was favorable even when you included Wake Forest. It's especially favorable now that the tricky Demon Deacons are gone, and that's definitely a team that you got to watch out for in the ACC. I don't believe that they have put themselves in a great position to try to get into the conference championship game, Wake Forest, but doesn't matter, right? When you look at this ACC race, everything is still out in front of this Virginia team, and they're in sort of that hodgepodge, right? Pitt is one of those teams that's in the mix to try to get into the championship game, right? And they got a big one. While it's not going to do anything for their conference record, it's going to do a lot for Pitt if they're able to get that win at home against Notre Dame this week. But when you take a look around the remainder of the ACC, Louisville still not out of it with those two losses. Neither is Miami. It's going to take a lot of chaos for a team like Wake or Cal to break in there. But SMU is still sitting in this conversation. Duke is still sitting in this conversation. And again, conference chaos can absolutely continue here in the coming weeks. The ACC, absolutely a conference that can still provide a lot more chaos down the stretch of the season. So you drop Virginia and Louisville while Pitt jumps up after the results from the previous week. And again, I liked this Pitt team at the beginning of the year, really starting to like them now. I would like to owe all of my Bulls fans an apology. I dropped you out of the Power 30 last week, and we maybe are overcorrecting that mistake by putting them at number 21, but I don't think so. I mean, that Bulls team, what they were able to do and just dismantling UTSA. UTSA is not a bad ball club, folks. They dismantle them. So this is one of those recalibration things where, I'm taking a look at a couple different teams throughout the country, and I look back at the way I rated teams last week, and I think, wow, I really, really missed the mark on this Bulls squad. Their lone loss in conference being to Memphis. Of course, they have that loss in non-conference to Miami as well. But you lose on the road at Memphis and come from behind Tiger fashion, but you dominate UTSA. And if they get that win against Navy this week, oh boy, UTSA with the Memphis loss, I think is now the group of five front runner yet again, even though it's really hard to tell in the American Athletic Conference because there's that log jam of teams at the top. But USF, I think, is viewed as that front running team right now. And look, man, you get past a Navy this week, you got UAB, watch out for them. They beat Memphis. And then Rice, favorable schedule after you get past the Navy midshipmen, and it's set sail from there if you can get into the American Conference Championship game. So maybe an overcorrection on my part, but I've liked this Bulls team all year and just missed the mark on them last week, quite simply put. Into the top 20 now, where we have the Cincinnati Bearcats. They, again, I still think are in great position in the Big 12 Conference, and the trickiest game that they have left against BYU, they have that one at home, and I've liked the Cincinnati team pretty much all year. Coming into the year, again, I totally missed the mark on them. I thought it was going to be a team that I just thought Cincinnati was going to be the team that succumbed to the chaos of the Big 12. I did not think it would be Kansas State. I thought it would be Cincinnati. Well, Brendan Sorsby's played well. They got some dogs defensively. And again, they still control their own destiny to get into the Big 12 championship game. If they beat BYU, they're in the driver's seat to get a position to go play in that game. Now, Arizona this week is going to be tricky. TCU on the road and the regular season finale is going to be tricky. But man, Cincinnati takes care of business. You could even be talking about, depending on how much chaos happens around the country, a Cincinnati team that could be competing for a spot in the college football playoff, even if they don't win the Big 12. Something to keep in mind. We press on. Michigan is here at number 19. I still cannot get past the struggling offense of this Michigan team and the, just the way that things are unfolding down the stretch for them. They got a couple of interesting road games here, Northwestern and Maryland, before the big one at home against the Ohio State Buckeyes, right? If Michigan takes care of business in these next 2 weeks, and then they beat an Ohio State team that is looking more and more likely that Michigan's going to face them when they are the number one team in the country. In fact, right now, to a lot of people, it might be like you can just go ahead and pen that in. We could be talking still about a win, and you're in the college football playoff scenario for Michigan, and it could even put you in the Big Ten championship game, depending on what else happens around the conference and the way that tiebreakers work itself out. Bryce Underwood does not have a lot of weapons, and they are down Justice Haynes right now. So I'd watch out for the upset bug with Michigan, but the defense is still really physical. They're playing Michigan ball, everything still in front of that team. Going to be hard for Tennessee to try to bust their way into the CFP, but again, coming off a bye, they rise up because other teams that were above them fell. And I still like the way the Volunteers are playing overall. USC did move up a spot there as well, a spot or two, again, because of the way that teams um, 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 above them fell. Oh my goodness, that is probably the worst brain lapse I've had in a long time. They beat Northwestern last week. You get one against Iowa, and really a lot of opportunities for USC. That win against Iowa, if they get it, is going to be respected by the committee because we've seen how much they respect Iowa. And then a win on the road at Oregon, if they can get it, would be huge for USC, who still very much is alive for a spot in the Big Ten championship game. Miami is sitting right here at number 16. Does Miami in November happen again? Does NC State strike again this week? NC State's got to go on the road and play Miami. It's going to be tough for them to try to break into the ACC championship game, although now with nobody undefeated in conference play, it's a lot more doable, right? But you still got to try to compete with Georgia Tech and Virginia, and again, Duke, SMU, Pittsburgh, even Louisville is sitting right there for them as well. Now Miami can get the leg up on Pittsburgh as they play them. So things are still in front of this Miami team. But let's just wait and see the way that the rest of the ACC unfolds. Because if Carson Beck is slinging around picks, Miami is not winning games. That's for sure. Vanderbilt, still think this is a legit competitive team here. Vanderbilt did have some trouble with Auburn, and I kind of figured that they would have a little bit, but needed overtime to get past that game. So now you look at this Kentucky team. Okay, can Kentucky have some sort of relapse, bounce back thing happen here with them? And of course, on the road against Tennessee. Vandy wins out here after their bye week. I think it's going to be a little bit hard to try to keep Vanderbilt out of the college football playoff conversation. Again, the way that things are looking to be shaping up right now. Utah, again, try keeping them out if they win out the rest of their schedule. And Utah's going to have some pretty good wins on the resume. They're going to have a win on the road over UCLA. They're playing much better. They're going to have a win over Cincinnati. They're going to have a road win over Baylor. It's nothing too drastic. They did lose to BYU. They did lose to Texas Tech. But you see the way the committee has been ranking Utah. It could be a very interesting conversation. Happen the Utes to try to get in to that college football playoff race if they win out the remainder of this year. And again, still alive for a spot in that Big 12 championship game. BYU, they just suffered their first loss of the year, so we're going to color correct BYU down here to number 13. Again, though, much like Cincinnati and Utah, everything in front of them in the Big 12. While Utah needs a little bit of help, BYU still controls their own destiny, and the reason BYU ahead of Utah, obviously, because of the result on the field. But BYU Cincinnati, man, that is the big one to watch in the Big 12 from this point forward, because the rest of the road for Texas Tech looks pretty simple. Georgia Tech is here at number 12. I still have them as the highest ranked team in the ACC. I believe that this is, or actually, I did not last week, so now they are my highest ranked team in the ACC. I still feel like Georgia Tech at its peak is the best team the conference has to offer. Yes, you take away Haynes King and things get murky, but I like the way this Yellow Jacket team is playing, especially they get that win against Georgia. Again, everything's still in front of them to get into the ACC championship game and a big rivalry week game in the last week of the regular season. Georgia Tech the rest of the way, pulling it up now on the road at Boston College, and a massive opportunity to get a good win at home against the Pittsburgh Panthers, along with that game against Georgia. And Oklahoma is here at number 11. Good to see John Mateer start to get healthier and just start to overall play better, because Oklahoma is a much better team when John Mateer is playing at the level that we all know that he can play at. And Oklahoma, again, everything's still in front of them. 2 losses in conference play. Going to make it hard to get there, but they can give the first conference loss to Alabama this weekend, as Oklahoma will travel to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Big one there. Oklahoma does have that road win over Tennessee, so we'll see if they can get one there on the road against a much tougher opponent in the Alabama Crimson Tide. Here's another one of those course corrections. It's the Texas Longhorns coming in at number 10. I did have them behind OU for the longest time, and yes, I do believe they were on bye last week, so Texas didn't really do anything outstanding. Again, they couldn't have. They were on bye week, so nothing outstanding happened to really vault them as much as some people may be like, how did you bring them up that high? What explain to me what happened here. It's a course correction, right? Texas, to me, just looks like a little bit better of a football team than I gave them credit for last week. And with the way things transpired in the country a week ago, I had to vault Texas into my top 10. They got that win in Red River against Oklahoma, so I got to vault them over there. I think right now they're playing, and at its peak are definitely a better football team than Georgia Tech, but again, they are playing better than them. And I think they're better than BYU, Utah, Cincinnati, Michigan, Tennessee, so many of those other teams that I ranked down there. And out of all of those teams, I'm like, it's going to be hard to keep them out, right? If Vandy wins out, if Utah wins out, a potential 2-loss BYU team that winds up losing their conference championship game. Texas is going to be right there in the thick of things, and a massive matchup across the way when you look at the Georgia Bulldogs. Notre Dame is vaulted up to number 9, so they are now in the top 10 here as well. A lot of people, again, thought they were dead in the water. They have revitalized themselves, starting to play some really good ball. CJ Carr, Jeremiah Love, keep going with the names down the list. Oregon, man, they did survive. They got that one on the road against the Iowa Hawkeyes, but you start to raise a couple of questions about Oregon now. And I know what everybody's going to say, right? How good is Iowa? We don't really know how good Iowa is. Blah, 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 blah. I think Oregon's still a really talented football team. I think Dante Moore is a really talented quarterback. And that was a tricky situation for Oregon. They did not have DeCarrion Moore. Gary Bryant went out in that game. So their wide receiver core was depleted, right? They were also out with one of their better running backs in that game. We saw some defensive injuries for them. So despite all of that, Oregon's able to get that win, which I think is going to help their case out a lot. And still, while the resume I do not think is over Ole Miss quite yet, it still has the potential to get there. You have USC, you have Washington left on the schedule. Minnesota coming up tonight for the Ducks, so we'll see how they handle the Golden Gophers there in Eugene. Texas Tech, the road is clear right now for the Red Raiders. Very favorable schedule in front of them. They got that big win against BYU in dominating fashion, and all the talent that the Red Raiders acquired over this past cycle, it's looking like it's paying off, and they are by far and away the front runner and best team within the Big 12 right now. Very well could see BYU again, although a date with Cincinnati could also be looming among many other teams. It's Big 12 chaos. Now, can Big 12 chaos happen to Texas Tech? Personally, I see it as unlikely. You got a home game against UCF and a road game against West Virginia. Yes, West Virginia pulled off the win against Houston, but Houston is not Texas Tech, okay? I believe Texas Tech, I've been saying it all season long. ever since we started to find out what this team was. They were the most talented, most equipped team to handle the Big 12, and they're proven that way so far. Top 6, not really going to talk about anything too specific. It is all unchanged, right? Ole Miss, easy win for them. Although, man, watch out for Florida this week. You know what happened last year, right? It was that loss to Florida. It was shocking. It was sudden, and it kept Ole Miss out of the college football playoff. Now, I don't know that a loss to Florida keeps them out of the playoff this year like it did last year, but something to watch out for, absolutely. Georgia, Bama, A&M, they are all going to sit right there. Bama had a little bit of trouble, tiny bit of trouble with LSU, but they're able to get out of it, right? You knew it was going to be a kitchen sink game for the Tigers. UGA, the Dogs, really no trouble at all with Mississippi State. I was impressed with that. And A&M continues to be undefeated, as now Texas A&M with the road win over Missouri. Again, though, Missouri did not have that starting quarterback. Indiana, oh boy. Woo-hoo-hoo. What a catch, Omar Cooper. Are you kidding? That's right now my vote for catch of the year, and I really don't think anything is going to beat it. I think that catch is this season-defining moment for the Indiana Hoosiers. Could it be the Heisman moment for Fernando Mendoza? Well, I know the quarterback of the number 1 team in the country is going to have something to say about that in Julian Sayin, but what a job from Indiana to be ahead most of that game. They let it slip away, but then they fought. They had the miraculous, unbelievable, once-in-a-lifetime type catch, and Indiana will stay here at number 2. Buckeyes still at number 1. The game against the Maize and Blue looming ever closer for this Buckeye squad, and that's the game. I think every college football fan is going to do a big old one of these around and try to circle that matchup. Definitely worthy of tuning in there. Otherwise, again, a couple recalibrations, some movement due to wins and losses. But other than that, nothing too extreme in this week's Power 30. Could next week be the week where a ton of stuff starts to shift around? Again, Georgia, Texas is coming up this week, right? Bama, Oklahoma. You got Ole Miss playing Florida. Oregon's got a tough one this week as well. Notre Dame on the road against Pitt. Lots can change as we enter into week 12 of the college football season. Coming up next, a shorter video about my college football playoff predictions. Then we'll dive into the weekly picks for week 12. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See y'all in the next video. Goodbye.